San Diego ComicCon 2025 has just ended. We're going to talk about that, talk about Superman, Fantastic Four, and a lot more on today's episode of the Geek Watch podcast.
This is the Geek Watch podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 250 of the Geek Watch podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's very own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Happy Summerween, Brian. It's August, and the Halloween decorations are out.
I have been perusing Michael's, which is my first go-to for interesting Halloween stuff. They have a couple of interesting collections that have been really cool. They're doing a new witchy theme in one of their collections, which is pretty cool, and some other stuff. It's been neat. I've been picking up little odds and ends for projects that I'm working on.
I'm always excited.
Oh yeah, and of course by August we'll be seeing the Spirit Halloween stores invading all these
the parking lots and empty storefronts. And
exactly. So
yes,
the spooky season has begun in more ways than one, but we'll get to that. But let's start first with San Diego ComicCon. One of the things I do want to talk about that was strange, normally San Diego ComicCon is very movie-centric, and there was some movie discussions going on.
Okay.
But it certainly wasn't to the degree that it has been in the past. In fact,
Really?
I would normally, when people talk about the big news of San Diego ComicCon, some movie is in the conversation. And
Marvel, usually, yeah.
Well, Marvel basically no-showed this year. Now, they did have the Fantastic Four suits out.
Okay.
But that was about it. Now, there was crazy cosplay. The cosplay that everybody was talking about was somebody did this Galactus cosplay.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't to scale, but you kind of felt like it was.
I mean,
massive. This guy was on stilts. His head was about chest level with this. So he had this big headpiece he was wearing that was Galactus's head. It was massive. And I've seen it many times on social media because everybody was just blown away by it. It was very creative.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up.
So, of course, the cosplay is always on point, but most of the media that people were talking about was television. A lot of the AMC's Anne Rice took center stage. A lot of the miniseries that are coming out, they've been talking that up. So this was basically the television.
We've got the last season of Stranger Things coming up.
They have that going, and a lot of TV has started to go away. Doctor Who's ended, and of course, what's going to happen to that show going forward? At this point, all we have is speculation. I don't know if you've seen any Doctor Who this season. I don't want to go into anything, obviously.
I think I've seen all but the last 2 episodes.
Well, we'll definitely need to talk about them last 2 episodes. Do you know anything about those episodes?
I've avoided it so far.
Well, maybe that's something we can talk about next time. There's some stuff that happened in those last 2 episodes that's like, where do we go from here?
Okay.
You're avoiding spoilers with the Doctor Who ending, and we've gotten the second part of the Sandman series, and we know from that we're not getting any more.
Right.
If you don't know anything about the behind-the-scenes stuff, they made it very clear in the show itself, no, you're not getting any more. I don't care if they're called The Endless, this ended.
Right.
So
it was beautiful.
It was indeed. And it did tie up a lot of loose ends.
Now that world could be revisited?
I think so.
Sandman itself, no. But I mean, that world could definitely be expanded upon. The graphic novels and everything, we know there are other stories there to tell.
Yeah, you've already, in a sense, had a spinoff of that show with Lucifer.
Pre-show spinoff.
But what's interesting about that show is that the first part of season 2 and what happens with Lucifer and Dream is what sets up, in a real sense, the series.
The series Lucifer.
Sort of like an Elseworlds type of a thing. I don't know if you watched any of the CW shows. I didn't watch a lot of them, but when they did those big crossovers, I would always watch them.
I've seen clips of them. I never watched them. I knew that Constantine existed, so I knew of them, but I didn't watch them or anything.
There were interesting little surprises in those shows. Mm-hmm. You did get to see Kevin Conroy play Batman in live action.
Yes.
Which was cool. The one thing that surprised me was they were world hopping because this was Crisis on Infinite Earths, a retelling of it, and all these different universes were being destroyed. At that point in the timeline of the different CW shows, Green Arrow had died, and they needed to get him back. So Constantine and friends wind up on Earth 666, and there he is.
There's Lucifer, yes. Tom Ellis Lucifer. I love in the TV show Lucifer that they're very tongue-in-cheek, winking at the camera, fourth wall breaking, because they'll say, you're supposed to be blonde. And I get that a lot. Yeah. Knowing that in the comic book he was blonde, he very much looking like Gwendolyn Christie. It was a detective show, very Holmes Watson like. I loved the show Lucifer.
Yeah, and Gwendolyn Christie, her
oh my goodness,
was great. We've been getting some very interesting devils. Not trying to spoil Ironheart at all, but anyway, yeah, that's a show.
Didn't we get a Mephisto announcement?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yes,
okay,
we did.
I thought so. I have forgotten.
A very controversial one, we'll just say, but until you see the show, you won't necessarily understand that. Let me tell you what really got me excited about this year's Comic-Con. I can talk about it on the show because we have changed our format a little bit.
All right.
Let's talk Daggerheart.
Oh, Daggerheart!
They had a Daggerheart panel. And so
which you're not excited about at all. I know you're just like, oh, it's just another game. You haven't bought a million decks of cards or bought special dice for this or built an abacus that is sitting on the desk in front of us.
Or done any type of home brewing or anything like that at all. No, I haven't, not at all.
Yeah.
I tell you what, just going through the book, and we talked about it last time, what I like about the game is it opens up a bunch of possibilities. That's what I think is great about it, especially with what's been going on with Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. We talked about Todd Henrich, who was the face of Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons and did all the interviews, and he got laid off. Well, just today, he posted another video interviewing people from Darrington Press. So, yes, they've gotten another one. They talked a lot about the stuff that they talked about on the panel. The full 2-hour panel you can see on YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's talk some highlights. Some things that I've really enjoyed about Daggerheart have been their website, because you can download a lot of content from there. They have their card creator, so you can create your own cards. Okay. You can homebrew cards, or you could do the regular cards with your own character. If you're playing in Daggerheart, you can change the art so it's your character doing those spells or effects. You can do that as well, but you can completely homebrew stuff, which I've been doing a little bit of myself on something I'm working on. What has been really fascinating about Daggerheart.com has been the Void. And the Void is where Darrington Press puts their homebrew stuff, things that they're beta testing.
Oh.
And they've been busy. They've created new classes like the Witch and the Assassin, which you can play now. They've been creating new domains for characters. They just released a new game mechanic and cards for it called Transformations. If you have a character who becomes a werewolf or a vampire or some other types of monsters, there are now beta rules for it.
Okay.
So you can introduce those to your game. On the site, there's an email where you can tell them how your beta test went so they can make adjustments, because they listen to their players, unlike some other companies.
This is how Mothman is working out for us.
Yeah. They definitely have been listening to their customers, and nothing has demonstrated that more than the slew of announcements they've come out with. For example, they're now going to start a Kickstarter for what they're calling class packs. One thing that people have been saying is, we have all these cards and it's awesome, but it is difficult to get the rule book and all the cards because they've been sold out everywhere. Now, I will tell you that in Canada and the United States, the Critical Role stores have been able to get a stock back, and you can start picking them up again. There are ways of purchasing the digital copy of the book, But they're doing this as a Kickstarter, not because they don't have the money to do it on their own. They're using it as a way to weigh interest. So if this is something that people want, they can vote with funding the Kickstarter. So what a class pack is, for all the different classes that you can play, there are packs for them. You buy the pack, you get all the character cards and all the spell cards from level 1 to level 10. You have everything you need for that particular character. With that, they're going to give you a digital copy of the rulebook. That will make it a lot easier for the player characters if you just want to have your own cards. And there are pros and cons to everybody having their own deck. And I think in some ways, especially during character creation, it's usually a good idea for everybody to use the same set of cards because that allows you to spread things out a little bit. So you don't have a bunch of characters doing basically the same thing. Once you've got your character creation done, if you want to have your own deck for your character, you can do that. In the original Daggerheart book, they had started working on a chapter on how to do your own homebrew, but it was becoming very involved because they don't do things halfway at Darrington Press. They wanted to have everything that you needed to play in one book. You have your characters, locations, rules of play, and even 6 campaign frames so you can dive in and play a campaign world. And so this homebrew chapter was becoming pretty extensive. They had a choice to make, which was either trim it down so it's not as useful, which was not the decision they made, or you can do what they decided to do, which was let's make it as big, informative, and useful as we can, and then put it on the website for free. So it's now on the website. So if you want a copy of it, you just can go and get it. And some other things that are coming out. When you have a couple of people who used to design stuff for Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons, why not have them design an entire campaign world for Daggerheart, which they're working on, which explains a lot of the beta testing for the spooky stuff, because apparently this is going to be a very spooky campaign from the creators of Strahd. That's going to be very interesting. They are also working on another campaign frame. Also, if you are a fan of Critical Role, you're familiar with Tuskalove, a romance book in one of their campaigns that became a running joke to the degree where they eventually published it as a real book, so you can now read Tuskalove. But a lot of people like reading romantasy books. So if you've got Daggerheart, you should be able to do a romantasy campaign frame if you want to. Well, they're creating one.
Of course they are.
So they're coming out with an official romantasy.
Book Talk is going to go nuts. Yes. I can't wait to hear about it.
So you can play a Daggerheart romantasy campaign setting, so you can play in a romantasy world. So you have a live play where a book became a part of that live play, and then that imaginary book became a real book, which is now becoming a part of the game, which could eventually become another live play.
Another storyline.
So you've got that coming down the pike. And they've announced season 2 of Age of Umbra, the live play that Critical Role's been doing. The first one has done extremely well. They're going to be doing season 2. And of course, we talked about their live tour that's been playing arenas and popping up in theaters as well, so you can watch them there. They have been giving people licenses to create stuff for Daggerheart all over the place. Several companies are going to be making specialty dice and other things for Daggerheart. The creators of the Eberron setting for D&D said, hey, we've got something for Daggerheart. Can we make something for Daggerheart? They were like, yeah, you can do that. So that's going to be coming out. And if you've been on social media like Facebook or on the Discord, you've seen a lot of people making projects. I may have made one or two, like little woodworking projects for a game that I'm getting ready to get started on.
I see the abacus.
Yes.
That's what I see.
Yes, I have a couple of different fear counters. The abacus, I wanted to see if I could make one. I've got some other stuff I've made for that as well. People have been getting very creative with it, and a lot of smaller companies are making stuff for Daggerheart. It's really starting to blow up in a massive way, which has been exciting to see, because with the real downer that Wizards of the Coast has been recently, like nature itself, nature abhors a vacuum. Wizards of the Coast has been backing away from stuff. They got rid of Todd Henrik, so they're not really putting out content online to get people excited. The Dragon Delves book that's just come out is good, but they haven't said a whole lot about it. It's a decent enough book. The Artificer source book for Eberron that they were getting ready to put out next month has been delayed because the copies they got were all just horrible. The covers were damaged. They were just wrecked. So they're going to have to redo the entire print run. So it's been delayed till December.
Was that the manufacturer or what?
With tariffs and shipping being what they are, problems are arising.
Yeah.
If you didn't follow gaming news, you wouldn't even know the book was coming out anyway because they're not really pushing things. And there are rumors that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are going to start doing microtransactions again, which got them in a huge mess before. Charging you for this little thing and charging you for that little thing. Unless, of course, it has to do with rule books or source books. You can't buy that stuff a la carte for some reason. No, you got to buy the whole thing. With all of that stuff going on and with them trying to pull back rights to publish stuff and, in a real sense, putting third-party creators in a pickle because not only it was like, are you going to sue us and say we can't publish stuff? Or even worse, are you going to take our stuff and then publish it for yourself and you make the money? But with all of that sad news for all of us who love Dungeons and Dragons, and this idea that things are starting to die down, and probably after the Artificer book and maybe a couple of other books, it's just going to kind of die on the vine for a while. It's going to go into hibernation and you're not going to see a lot of new stuff. You know, that's sad.
Yes.
But Daggerheart seems to be stepping up. There's a lot of possibilities with it. Maybe one episode soon of the Geek Watch podcast, we can deep dive into that a little bit more. I mean, I'm still going through the rule book. There's so much stuff out there telling you how to play. I don't know if hearing me just regurgitate all that's going to be all that interesting, but there are some things about the game that I find interesting that I think people aren't really talking about, which might be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, and I think once we start playing, we'll be able to discuss and talk about the gameplay and our experience. And hopefully soon we'll get to start.
Oh, yes. Plans are being made.
Plans are being made.
Even as we speak.
Yes.
Let's step away from role-playing and talk movies because I have seen both Superman and the Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay. Well,
I want to talk about them as a unit.
Okay.
Because they are both very indicative of a trend in superhero movies that I'm really liking.
Animals. I don't know.
I mean,
I know dog adoptions have gone up.
Since Crypto, which doesn't make any sense to me because Crypto's the dog you don't want.
No? Oh, yeah. That's sad.
I'm not saying Crypto ain't adorable, but imagine the least behaved dog you ever had to deal with in your life, and imagine they had superpowers and super strength. I would just say there was some damage to the Fortress of Solitude. If anyone's seen the trailers, they know that. But that's definitely a dog that gets into trouble. He's not that noble, stoic dog that we may be used to with Crypto. This is a troublemaker with powers, but adorable in his own way, for sure.
Yes.
What both the Fantastic Four and Superman have demonstrated is that you can make a superhero movie that's not all grimdark. It can be optimistic, heartwarming, and all of that. So here you've got a Superman who's really only been Superman for about 3 years. He's still kind of making some mistakes. He does have a bit of a sense of humor. He is very much the Boy Scout.
Excellent.
And if you've seen the trailers, you know there's one scene where there's this big monster stomping around in Metropolis, which apparently is in Delaware because it's all Delaware plates. So in this new DCU, we all know Metropolis is in Delaware. But there's a scene where this thing is stomping through the city and Superman, in a burst of super speed, saves a squirrel from getting stepped on. He literally swoops up a squirrel and saves it from getting squished and lets it go. I know some people have griped about that. It's like, why the hell would he stop to save a squirrel? Because he's Superman. You know, Superman would save a squirrel if he could. And he did, you know. So I've loved that. And the Fantastic Four, it's a family drama. It's great. These are 4 people that you can see are a family. And I love that. They do go through some stuff, obviously. If you've seen the trailers, you know what stuff I'm talking about. But this is an actual family. There's a real family dynamic there. There's a real closeness there. Even though Ben Grimm doesn't have the gravelly voice, it works. Reed Richards is the intelligent lunar person that you want. Sue Storm is definitely the front-facing part of the Fantastic Four because Reed takes the podium on occasion, but Sue Storm is definitely the heart of that team. Without going into spoilers, there's a scene where she walks into the middle of a crowd outside of the Baxter building. And not going into any spoilers, she's got bars. Let's just say that. She has a very powerful little speech there.
Okay.
That you're like, wow, that's amazing. And Ben Grimm, the big rock with a big heart, he's definitely that. Of course, everybody knows Johnny Storm as the forlorn jokester.
Yep.
But what you don't know is that he is, in the comics, very smart. I mean, he's not Reed Richards, but he's no dummy. And you get to see that part of him in the movie. There's some stuff he figures out. While Red Richards is busy working on some heavy scientific stuff, he's going at the problem they're dealing with at a different angle and comes up with some really interesting stuff and is a very vital member of the team. What I really like about both movies is that they're not competing with each other, they're helping each other. And they're really playing that up to a huge...
Good.
I don't know if you've seen these online, but there's this meme of Mr. Fantastic and Superman, and above them it's got the name of their movies and the millions of dollars that they made, and they're fist bumping each other.
Oh, a bit Barbieheimer kind of.
Although it makes more sense. They're two superhero movies about, more lighter side movies that are not so dark and dismal.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit closer together. But again, it's the spirit of we're not trying to beat the other one. We're supporting each other. And of course, with the DCU and with James Gunn, is very familiar with Marvel because he's worked for Marvel. There's definitely that camaraderie there and that feeling that Marvel is rooting DC on and going, hey, go for it, because that hasn't always been that case.
Yeah.
There's definitely been in the past a competitive thing, which didn't help anybody out. Why have winners and losers when you can just have winners?
Yes.
And what we've seen with the Superman movie and the Fantastic Four has been a return to that type of storytelling that we were used to in superhero movies that we have kind of gotten away from for a while. Not that there wasn't a lot of good stuff in a lot of that, but we've gotten the last season of The Boys and that's going away. So the idea of being able to get more into the lighthearted, more inspirational, more fun in your superhero movie, I think that's fantastic. Going back to Comic-Con, we got a trailer for season 2 of Peacemaker.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
Yay!
So that's fun.
I'm so
and
excited.
Even though that's a little more adult, it's still very fun. And
it is fun.
And what they're doing with it, in a sense, they're kind of poking fun at Marvel in a playful way.
Okay.
I just love the fact that with all that's going on now with the superhero movies that are coming out, next year we're going to be getting the new Spider-Man movie, and we know the Punisher is going to be in it. So with DC picking up huge, and even though there's been drama in tabletop role-playing, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and the name of the train is Daggerheart. It seems to be going at a huge clip. There's hope again. Pardon the Daggerheart pun, but yes, we've been rolling with fear for so long, and now we're finally getting to roll with hope. Can this continue? Well, I guess we'll see.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 250. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.